My name is Marilee Fry, and I am the Lake County Coroner. My role as Lake County Coroner is to investigate all deaths that are homicide, suicide, accident, and suspicious deaths. The CDC has labeled that we have a very serious epidemic. The epidemic affects not only those here in Lake County, but throughout the state of Indiana, throughout the country, and worldwide.
An epidemic is a disease that spreads rapidly among people in a community at the same time. Bubonic plague was an epidemic. Smallpox was an epidemic. AIDS is an epidemic. Opiate addiction is an epidemic. The opioid overdose epidemic kills an estimated 115 Americans a day. About 100 Hoosiers die from drug overdoses every month. In Northwest Indiana, opioid overdose deaths are steadily rising. In 2013, there were 71 drug overdose deaths. By 2017, that number had grown to 196. Nationally, drug overdoses are the leading cause of death for Americans under 50. Last year, overdoses killed more people than either automobiles or guns, and it is growing at a rate faster than the AIDS epidemic at its peak. Opiate addiction is an epidemic, and it will kill you. The Lake County Coroner and forensic pathologists are responsible for determining the cause and manner of death. The pathologist performs an autopsy, post-mortem examination, and determine not only what ultimately caused the death, but what also led to the cause of death. The autopsy report also determines if the death was homicide, suicide, accidental, natural, or unknown.
My name is Dr. John Fesco. I'm one of two forensic pathologists here that covers the Lake County Coroner's Office. You have myself and then Dr. Wong. I'm here to talk to you about the opioid and heroin epidemic we have, not only in Lake County, because I also see it in Porter County and LaPorte County. It's the Lake County Coroner's job to investigate the deaths of overdoses. One of the biggest things I've seen over the years, and probably why we're seeing more overdose deaths, is how high pure the drugs are and how toxic they are. A lot of times heroin is mixed with fentanyl, which is a very powerful agent that causes asphyxiation. They stop breathing.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin. It's commonly used for surgical anesthesia and is prescribed to treat pain. But almost all of the fentanyl on the streets is illicitly manufactured. Fentanyl is 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin.
So we're seeing a lot more mixed substances with the heroin, with the opiates. A lot of times I'm signing out the cause of death as multiple drugs involved, like benzodiazepines, alcohol, with heroin, with cocaine, and again, the heroin's mixed with these very toxic drugs such as fentanyl, and that's how these things are being sold on the streets. So again, it's just a dramatic increase in these deaths all across the country, but in particular our county here in Lake County.
I'm 32 years old. I was born in Jonesboro, Georgia. I'm the middle of three boys, and I've lived here in Northwest Indiana since I was 12. My first drug experience was with tobacco, smoking cigarettes, stealing cigarettes from my parents. Started liking cigarettes and getting the buzz. I was instantly looking for what else was out there, and I believe that that's what they mean when they say that pot's a gateway drug, alcohol's a gateway drug, cigarettes are a gateway drug. You know, of course, as soon as I started smoking cigarettes, start smoking pot, start drinking, I was constantly looking for the next stronger, faster, funner buzz that I could find. You know, the stronger the high, and as often as I could do it. And as soon as I tried the opiates and the Xanax, the benzos, things like that, it's all I wanted. So I started changing my friends based off of who could get what. And so I started gravitating toward those that were taking pills, that were, selling pills, that were doing ecstasy, doing Vicodin, Oxycontin, stuff like that. And then I met somebody who was into heroin. And he put it to me quite simply. He said, why would you spend $5 a pill on these Vicodin when we can go up to Chicago and get a dime bag of heroin for $10? And for whatever reason, that enticed me. It made sense to me. So I started using when I was 19 and didn't stop until I was 29.
I was born and raised in a dysfunctional family. My father was an alcoholic. My mom was codependent. When we were growing up, there was a lot of dysfunction in the home. And what I knew, without a doubt, is that I did not want to be like my parents. And I figured that I had my mind made up, so it should be simple after that. And that just was not the case. So through high school, I experimented a little bit, but it wasn't anything drastic. So fast forward a few years, I moved on with my life, got married, had kids, life went on, and I did very well for myself, pursued a career, and I just believed that I had dodged that bullet. I did not want to be like my parents, no matter what. That was the one thing I did not want to do. I had woken up one day before work and I couldn't move my arm. And what it was is I had a torn rotator cuff from a bone spur and it required immediate laser surgery. So I went to the hospital, I had the surgery. They put me in physical therapy for roughly a year. I had some teeth work done during that time as well, so I was basically prescribed pain medications for roughly 12 months. And what I remembered the most during that time was just this idea that it's legal, the doctor gave it to me, it's safe, it's harmless. And unfortunately, that was not the case.
Increased prescription of opioid medications has led to widespread misuse of both prescription and non-prescription opioids. An estimated 40% of opioid overdose deaths involved a prescription opioid.
Opiates are heroin. And I did not look at it as if it was a drug. I looked at it as medication. And, when I look back, I know that within a matter of months, I was taking more than was prescribed. And I didn't self-identify as being in addiction because it was legal. And the doctor, they were valid prescriptions. So I floated on that idea and that belief that I was safe and I wasn't doing anything wrong for roughly a year. The prescriptions kept coming. As I became addicted to the pain pills, the doctors just kept prescribing. And so then once the prescriptions stopped coming, I just started doctor shopping. And then once I ran out of doctors, I just started filling up at the emergency rooms. And so anything and everything just to get the next fix, and that was when I knew I had a problem.
I'm here today because the heroin epidemic is reaching a proportion that's out of control, and I personally have been affected by it. I lost my son Nicholas March 6, 2016 to a drug overdose. My son was attending IUPUI down in Indianapolis, so he didn't live at home, so I wasn't real sure of what was going on with him as far as using drugs. I just had known his personality was changing. He was becoming more angry when I would talk to him. He would isolate himself a little bit from us. I wouldn't hear from him for days. So I knew something was going on, but I didn't know he was using heroin. He was a good student. He never gave us troubles. He was never in trouble with the law. He had a part-time job after school. He participated in sports. He played baseball most of his school years. He was just an all-American, average boy who lived next door. Never gave us any trouble. This is the last thing I ever envisioned for him. There was lots of arguments, of course, because of his attitude every time I would talk to him. I really just thought it was the stress of school. because he was in the engineering program down at IUPUI, which is very demanding, living on his own with some roommates, and I just thought it was the stress of it all. So I may have been in a little bit of denial. I just certainly never thought it was drugs that was causing the issue with him. It went on maybe a year, and then he confronted me and told me he was using heroin. He was very blunt about it and came forward to me telling me he was using heroin. I think it was a cry for help. He didn't like who he'd become, and then from there we kind of moved forward.
I got so physically dependent upon it that it wasn't a choice for me. It wasn't that I was out having fun and painting the town red and partying at night. When you're doing heroin, you have no friends. You're not partying, you're not going to clubs, you're not going to baseball games, you're not going to the movies. Your entire life is wake up, drive to the ghetto, get heroin, shoot heroin, go to sleep. That's it. You have no friends, you have nobody that wants to be around you. Everybody hides their stuff, they lock their doors, they don't call you, no one wants you around. Hell, my dope dealers didn't even want to sell to me toward the end because I'm always rolling up with, $8 or $9 worth of change, telling them I'll pay them back next week. And they're calling you all kinds of nasty names and pulling guns on you. It's horrible. It's the absolute worst existence that you could ever imagine. I've had pistols in my face multiple times, been robbed at gunpoint. Really the dark times came, later on in the progression of it. I was alone on the west side of Chicago, homeless, without a phone, without two nickels to rub together, shaking cups for change, panhandling, holding cardboard signs, stealing to support my habit, and eating Dunkin' Donuts, day-old donuts out of a dumpster. But what's so dangerous about heroin, one of the things that's so dangerous about it, is it's so physically addicting that within 4 or 5 days, I was getting sick when I didn't have it. I would wake up in full-blown withdrawal, throwing up, nauseous, goosebumps, sweating, panic attacks, bones hurting, muscles hurting. It was awful. And so when I wake up and I'm that sick, and my only choice is to go through withdrawal for a month or go get a bag, it was simple. And that's what keeps people strung out for so long, because I just can't turn it off. I can't just be not sick. But once you're sick, once you're at the point where you're physically dependent upon it, it's literally a living hell. I mean, you wake up and you are so sick, you don't want to talk to your family, you don't want to see anybody, you can't hold a job, you have absolutely no ambition, you're broke, and your only options are to wake up and go steal from your grandma or steal from your parents or break in somewhere or rip somebody off, and just to go feel normal, to where you're not throwing up all over yourself and just horribly sick. It stopped being fun for me a long time ago.
So it was Thanksgiving 2007 when I woke up on a ventilator in ICU for my first drug overdose. My mom was standing there, and up until this moment I had not verbally acknowledged out loud that I had a problem. I had not self-identified as being an addiction, and I still thought that I had it under control, and I wanted no one to know about it because I didn't want anyone to know that I had a problem. And up until that moment, I thought I had dodged a bullet. That was my belief, and that kept me sick for a very long time. And notice I said it was my first drug overdose. There was many after that, and I just thank God for Narcan.
Narcan, or naloxone, is a narcotic blocker. It is used to treat narcotic drug overdose. It is used to temporarily reverse the effects of opioid medicines. This medicine has no effect in people who are not taking opioid medicines.
But my mom was standing over me, and she's just crying, and she's begging, and she's pleading with me, please stop. Can't you see what you're doing to the kids? Can't you see what you're doing to yourself? Did you do it on purpose? Were you trying to kill yourself? And what I remember from that particular moment was just this overwhelming feeling of shame and guilt. And I was grateful that in that moment there was a tube down my throat and I could not talk, because I knew with everything within my mind, heart, body, and soul that I wanted to stop using. But equally as strong or stronger was the fact that I knew I couldn't. And that was one of the scariest points in my life.
Told me he was going to go to Indy for the weekend to hang out with one of his old roommates who I knew had used before, but I also knew he had gone through rehab and had been doing well. So I kind of was on high alert, and I just told him, you better not be going down there doing anything. Oh, Mother, I'm not going down there doing anything. So we went down to Indy for the weekend. I had flown out to Arizona, a call from this boy that he was with telling me that Nick had overdosed. And my first reaction was, okay, where is he at? Is he at the hospital? Someone give him Narcan? No, he's at the coroner's office. So it was a complete shock to me, a complete shock. I'd never seen it coming. I never in a million years thought this was going to happen to my son and to my family, because he had done so well for 18 months. He had done so well, and he didn't ever want to use heroin again. He had quit smoking. He was living a clean life. He was eating well, exercising. I never seen it coming. I'm not so sure he even saw it coming. I just think it's such a powerful disease that it can hit, that craving can hit them out of nowhere. He was in an old environment where he had used before with the same people, and it happened.
Let me talk to you a little bit about the age that I see with overdose deaths. It is a younger population. I would say anywhere from 16 years old through early and mid-20s. They are getting it from suppliers in the area, that is the heroin and mixed with fentanyl. But again, it's always very tragic and sad for me to see, these 18, 19, 20-year-olds dying. Sometimes first-time users, sometimes they've been in and out of therapy, trying to stop taking the medication, and then they go through a remission for 6 months, maybe a year, and then they break down and have that one dose. And that is a problem, because now their body has lost that tolerance, and it only takes one bad mixture of a high potent opiate or a heroin mixed again with fentanyl, and their body cannot handle it. In closing, I want to speak to families and parents that have either lost a family member from an overdose or they survived that event. I kind of relate this to the diagnosis of cancer, if you will, that you might say that your cancer is gone and you're in remission, but you're never cured. They may have gone through rehab, your loved one, if they survived the event, and they're in remission. They haven't used drugs for 6 months, a year. But just always be on the guard, always be on the lookout. Monitor their activity, monitor them. And I'm not saying to monitor their phone and their life, but it's easy, and I see this, on the morgue table. These young kids who are drug-free for a year, and something, whether or not it's the brain chemistry, it's just that one hit, that excitement, and they may have gone through a little depression right before that, but they do that one hit, and that's all it takes, because again, their body's not used to that. They've been off of drugs for a year. Again, just be in contact, monitor your children, your loved ones, because it still can be fatal a year later after remission.
As your coroner, I have an opportunity to make a difference. And my sincere hope is that we can be more proactive than reactive. We don't want to make a call to your parents today. We don't want to make a call to your parents tomorrow and let them know that they've lost their child. So if I could send one message, it would be to our youth to really consider what you're about to do. that it is possible that it could be you that could be the one to develop an addiction.
There are two risk factors that I would like every student to learn and know about: commitment to school and academic failure, especially academic failure beginning in early elementary. Try to maintain a high or higher level of grades, and also stay bonded with your school through extracurricular activities. Experience school at a level in which you can bond and tie with those professionals that you have there every day. Being chairman of S.A.F.E Coalition, I'm here to represent the attitudes and the beliefs of all of our members that we want to make a strong stance against opioid use. Never feel like you're alone. You have a great support team in your schools as well as in your community. Reach out to us. There are individuals that can lead you to proper sources of where you can get great counseling or great help with what you're dealing with. If you're interested in more information about our S.A.F.E Coalition, check out our website or follow us on Facebook. And if you need our help, we're here for you.